All right. We are on we are in the second chapter of Daniel tonight. So if you turn to Daniel, the second chapter, we left off um, with Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and Nebuchadnezzar was this dream was a very disturbing dream to him. He just it just didn't sit well with him. It disturbed him greatly, and he tried to charge his his elite educated folks to try and tell him what this dream was. And apparently these guys had kind of led him astray before, so he was not real helpful to them. And as you remember from the story last night or last week, he wanted them to tell him about their dream and interpret it for him, but he wouldn't tell them what the dream was. And of course, this was this was not good because they themselves, remember last week, they themselves admitted that they could not, no human could understand and see a another person's dream. They admitted that, and of course that just made Nebuchadnezzar even more mad. And so he kind of went off the deep end and just said, "Well, I'm going to kill you all. I'm going to get rid of all of you." And it was when word came to Daniel, and of course that included Daniel because Daniel was part of this elite educated group. He was in school at that point to be one of these folks. Um, Daniel consulted the only person that could give him the dream. He consulted God Himself. He and his uh, he and uh, he and his three um, he and his three friends, um, they consulted God. They prayed, and God gave them God gave Daniel the vision that Nebuchadnezzar had or the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had seen. It came in a vision to Daniel, but it was a dream to Nebuchadnezzar. And we stopped last week at Daniel's prayer of thanksgiving back to God. So we're in Daniel chapter 2 and verse 20. So if you'll flip over there, Daniel chapter 2 verse 20, and let me count people. Two, three. Okay. Um, so Daniel answered and said, now I kind of I was looking at the lesson earlier in the week, thinking about what I was going to say, and I was kind of looking down at the statue itself, and was thinking about that, and kind of skipped over the prayer. But then during the week, I started to think about the prayer that Daniel had prayed, and really, this is something that we need to pay attention to because this prayer here, this prayer of praise to God is really a conglomeration of God's attributes. We know God by his attributes, by what his characteristics are, by what his character is. And we should never overlook that when we're reading the Bible, when we see, especially in the Psalms, David and the other people that wrote the Psalms were praising God because of who He is. And there's no better way to learn who God is than to look at these Psalms. And this could be a psalm here. This could be a psalm from Daniel. But let's look at it carefully. Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, to whom belong wisdom and might. That's a pretty generic beginning. Begins like a lot of the Psalms. But look at what we go next. He changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. that when we think about that, that is he changes times and seasons. Daniel Daniel understood that God is sovereign above all, and he is sovereign to the point where he can change time itself and the seasons themselves. The times, like a day or a night, the seasons are larger, epics, great spans of time. The rulers, the, the, the kingdom of Judea is an epic. He changes those. He changes those. Verse 22, he reveals deep and hidden things. Those Aramaic words there, deep and hidden things, that's speaking of things that are not explainable. They are so deep and so hidden, they are not explainable. And then he knows what is in the darkness. Now this is not this is uh, there's multiple words for darkness, but there's two main words in Hebrew and Aramaic for darkness. One of them is just the absence of light. You know, you look out and you say it's dark. But this darkness is koshet. This is darkness that speaks of a spiritual darkness. So this is not just the absence of light. This is not just night. This is spiritual darkness. He knows what is in the spiritual darkness of the earth, and the light dwells with him. Now, if you read that carefully. The light dwells with him. Does that does that bring anything to your mind there? Do you sense something there?
Understanding.
Understanding, a little bit bigger. Yes, understanding, and we're going to get that in a minute. Oh, yeah, it's above us, and knowledge to those who have understanding. Yeah, the light is understanding, the light is knowledge. But what else is the light? Think of First John.
Truth.
Truth. Who is truth?
Jesus.
Jesus.
You think he might be talking about something there? The light dwells with God.
That's Jesus, right?
Yeah, we see that in the New Testament. That's John. In the beginning
He's the
was the
light of the
Word.
world.
Yeah, the light of the world. We see there he is in the Old Testament right here, and Daniel understands the light dwells with God, the Father. Verse 23, to you, O God of my fathers, I give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and might. You have now made known to me what was asked of you, and for you have made known to us the king's matter. This is a prayer that we should not overlook. So mark that in your Bible. That is a huge description not only of God the Father, but God the Son kind of sneaks in there on us. So I almost overlooked that prayer, but God wouldn't let me do that. So pay attention to those psalms that talk about God and his attributes, because God is so powerful. He is in charge of time itself. The kings of the world. He is wisdom. He is knowledge. He understands the spiritual darkness. He understands the spiritual darkness, and yet the light still dwells with him. Just an incredible, incredible psalm there that I almost overlooked. So after Daniel praises God for the giving him Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Now he goes and deals with it. All right, verse 24. Therefore, Daniel went to Arioch. Arioch, remember, was the king's captain of the guards. Therefore, Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus to him: Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought Daniel in before the king in haste and said thus to him, I have found among the exiles from Judah a man who will make known to the king the interpretation. Now, let's stop right there for a minute and think. Arioch was a captain of the guards, and the king had put him in charge of this mission to exterminate the wise men. Then Arioch is bringing before the king this Hebrew boy to interpret the dream. Do you think Arioch was taking a chance here? Yeah, he was taking a chance on Daniel. But apparently Daniel was of such a character that even the captain of the guard respected this young Hebrew enough to take a chance on him and bring him before the king. Because
That
the
was the
king,
providence of God at work.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. God is working in the background here to give Arioch enough wisdom and understanding to realize that Daniel is something different even from the wise men of Babylon, something different from these soothsayers and black magic doers. He's something different, because I don't think if one of the magicians had said, "Take me to the king. I'm gonna tell him what it is." I don't think Arioch would have done that for that guy. So verse 26, the king declared to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar. Now remember, the Babylonians changed all of their names. They changed all of their names to try and get the Hebrews um, intertwined into the Babylonian culture and sort of absorb them. The Babylonians were not a typical conquering nation. Remember, we talked about this. They did not just take everybody captive, make them slaves, kill them, scatter them. The Babylonians were a little bit more clever in their conquering. They took the best, the brightest, the most intelligent people from their conquered people and brought them to Babylon and then put them in schools to teach them how to be Babylonians. And that's what they were doing with Daniel and his friends. But it didn't work. Remember, Daniel would not eat their food. So Daniel resisted being pulled into the Babylonian culture. But yet, he still, you remember when we read about his schooling, Daniel and his friends were more educated on the Babylonian culture than even the Babylonian students in there. So God gave them not only the ability to resist being taken into the Babylonian culture, but these guys now knew more about the Babylonian culture than they did. So the king declared to Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, are you able to make known to me the dream that I have seen in this interpretation? Daniel answered the king and said, yeah, I can do it. No, that's not what it says. Daniel answered the king and said, no wise man, enchanter, magician, astrologer can show the king the mystery the mystery that the king has asked. That's exactly the same thing that the king's men told him. So Daniel Daniel is not, and I'll guarantee you, if the king's men knew what the dream was, they were going to say, yes, I can tell you what that dream is. But Daniel did not, even though he knew. Daniel was about to give credit to where credit was due. No wise man, enchanter, magician, or astrologer can show to the king the mystery that the king has asked. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Your dream and the visions of your head as you lay in bed are these. Not once, not once in those sentences did Daniel say me, I. He did not say me or I anywhere. Did you get that? He did not say anything about himself. There is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar, not to me, to King Nebuchadnezzar, what will be in the latter days. Your dream and the visions in your head as you lay in bed are these. And we continue on in verse 29. To you, O king, as you lay in the bed, came thoughts of what would be after this. And he who reveals the mysteries made known to you what will be. But as for me, the mystery has been revealed to me, not because of any wisdom that I have more than all the living, but in order that the interpretation may be known to the king, and that you may know the thoughts in your mind. He's making known the interpretation to the king, the thoughts of his mind. Now, start thinking about this. God gave Nebuchadnezzar this dream. And this dream, as Daniel said right up there in verse 26, is of the latter days. Now, we all know what the latter days is. The latter days started just before Jesus was born. That was sort of the first latter days. Jesus was born, and as soon as he was crucified and rose and went back to heaven, we are now in the second latter days, the latter days before the end. So this is talking, this dream, don't forget this dream is about the latter days. He doesn't say which one, so we have to look for clues in this. But this is the latter days. This is sometime just before Jesus was born, forward to where we are. So this interpretation is about the time we are in. We are in this somewhere. So don't forget that. Verse 31. Now, if anybody has any questions, jump in. If you have any questions, jump in.
My question don't come until 42 and 43.
Okay, let me mark that. Yeah, that's marked up here too. It's right here. All right, here we go. You saw, O king, and behold, a great image. This image, mighty and exceeding bright, stood before you, and its appearance was frightening. The head of this image was fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its middle and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, and its feet partially of iron, partly of clay. As you look, a stone was cut out, not by human hand, and struck the image on the feet of iron and clay and broke them into pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold all together were broken in pieces and became like chaff of the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away so that not a trace of them could be found. But the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. You, O king, the King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power, and the might, and the glory. Let's stop there for a minute. Look at what Daniel addressed Nebuchadnezzar as. You've heard those words before. The King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has been given the kingdom, the power, and the might, and the glory. He's talking about a Gentile king. He's talking about a Gentile king. But remember, we've read this before. We've read this before. And so had Daniel. This is Jeremiah's prophecy, and Daniel knows it. Jeremiah 27. We've read this before. This is Jeremiah speaking to Hezekiah, the king of Judah, right then. And God said, now I have given, the 27th chapter of Jeremiah, the 6th verse. Now I have given all the lands into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and I have given him also the beasts of the field to serve him. All the nations will serve him and his son and his grandson until the time of his own land comes. Then many nations and great kings shall take him as their slave. But if any nation or kingdom will not serve Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and put his neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, I will punish that nation with the sword, with famine, and with pestilence, declares the Lord, until I have consumed it by his hand. Look at what God prophesied. Nebuchadnezzar was chosen by God as his servant to rule over the nations that he conquered. And it's an edict from God himself. And that's why Daniel addresses him as King of Kings, to whom the God of heaven was given the kingdom, the power, and the might, and the glory. The only reason that Nebuchadnezzar had the kingdom, the power, the might, and the glory is because God gave it to him. He was to rule, and he was to rule over Judah, because he was talking to Hezekiah, the king of Judah at that time. You are to be ruled over him, you are to be ruled by Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar is to rule over you and other kingdoms. So this is hugely important. Nebuchadnezzar is supposed to be there. You are given the kingdom, the power, the might, and the glory. Verse 36. And in whose hands he is given whatever they dwell, the children of man, the beasts of the field, and the birds of the heavens, making you rule over them all. You are the head of gold. Daniel is remembering and paraphrasing exactly what Jeremiah had prophesied to Hezekiah not too long ago. Not too long ago. This is like tens of years ago. Verse 39. A kingdom inferior to you shall rise after you, and yet a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. And there shall be a fourth kingdom as strong as iron, because iron breaks to pieces and shatters all things. And like iron that crushes, it shall break and crush all these. And now, as you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, it the fourth kingdom shall be a divided kingdom. But some of the firmness of iron shall be in it, just as you saw iron mixed with soft clay. And the toes of the feet were partly iron and partly clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly brittle. And as you saw the iron mixed with soft clay, so shall they mix with one another in marriage, but they will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with clay. All right, I'm going to stop there for a minute, because I'm sure Jeff is about to fall off his chair. So, we're talking about four kingdoms: gold, silver, bronze, iron, and then a fifth kingdom that comes out of the fourth kingdom that is not, and you notice there are two legs, so the iron kingdom is divided. The iron kingdom is two kingdoms, two legs. But the kingdom of the feet that is mixed with clay is an unstable kingdom, because of this, where it says mixed with one another in marriage. There's something peculiar about that. But Jeff, you wanna wade in here?
Well, I that's where I'm stuck on. I want to know. I'm reading King James. It says, Whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men.
Yes.
They shall not cleave one to another, as iron is not mixed with clay. So that right there, I'm just like, what are they talking about? Who's they? Who's the they there?
Yeah.
And what do you mean mixed with the seed of men?
Yep.
So I mean, are we? I mean, I'm going out on a limb here, because I don't know. I'm
Uh,
just asking. I mean, are we talking about an angel situation again, like they did before the flood?
We're talking about the Gentiles.
The Genesis 6.
yes,
Yeah,
we're Gentiles here, Geraldine. This is all Gentile stuff here.
yeah, it's all
Remember,
Gentile.
remember, we're in. We started the first chapter was written in Hebrew. From the second chapter on to the seventh is written in Aramaic, which is the common language of the Gentiles. So we're talking about full-blown Gentiles here. Okay, just making us remember we're talking about Gentiles now. So yeah, what have we got here? And we're gonna
I'm,
wait a
I'm
lot.
just, I'm just kind of like I don't know what to think about it.
Right. This is a tough one because we know for certain because Daniel turns around and tells us in another chapter who the gold is. Well, he just told us who the gold is. That's Babylon. The silver, he tells us, is Greece. I'm sorry, Media Persia, the Median Persian Empire. Bronze is the Greek Empire, and then he doesn't exactly tell us that the iron is Rome, but there is no argument that the iron is talking about the Roman Empire.
Yeah, I get that because it's
Right.
the legs. You got the east
That's
and west.
easy.
Yeah, that's easy.
That one's the
Greece was
easy part.
easy. Persia's easy. What's this thing?
What's this thing? That
Yeah.
is that is the part that has confounded me and is still confounding me. Because remember, we are not talking about a new something. These parts are there's no definite division. The gold just becomes silver, the silver just becomes bronze, the bronze just becomes iron, and the iron becomes this weird stuff. So this is not like a division. This is just a progression of history.
Well,
But we
true, but I mean, I'm reading in Revelation, and it talks about the beast,
yeah,
what it's like unto. It uses both the metals and the animals,
yep,
and to explain it. I mean, there's the gold, the bronze, and the iron teeth and all that
mhm,
stuff,
yep,
and the body of a leopard and so forth. So I mean, it. I mean, so I know it has to do something with a kingdom, but when they say mix with the seed of men,
yep,
that's that kind of throws me off there. I
yeah.
don't know what to
That's
think about that.
and this is why it's so important to understand the the culture, not only the culture, but the Hebrew. And you guys know good and well I am not a Hebrew expert. I rely heavily on several sources. One of them, the guy we're taking these lessons from, Tom Bradford, but also a couple of others. So the Hebrew there is the Hebrew there is peculiar. It says, like I read in my interpretation, mixed with one another in marriage. The King James actually has a more um, precise translation here. That term is zera enosh, which means literally seeds of men. Now it's seeds of men, not seed of men, seeds of men. Now there is, and if you are knowledgeable about the Torah, and we're going back to Leviticus here, there is an expressed section in Leviticus about the mixing of unequal things. A Hebrew is not forbidden to wear a garment of linen and wool mixed. That is horrid for a Jew to think about a linen and wool mix of a shirt. They will not come near it. That's
Yeah, same thing with bathing a goat's kid in their mother milk.
right. And
Yeah, so
you don't mix meat with cheese, because that could be, they don't eat cheeseburgers. That could be that boiling a kid in his mother's milk. That's mixing of two forbidden things. The Old Testament forbids Jews to marry certain tribes, the Ammonites for one. That is a forbidden mixture. This is a forbidden mixture. It causes it, and in Hebrew in Leviticus it is, these mixtures cause chaos, cause confusion, and you do not do that. Tavel is the word. It causes tavel, confusion, chaos, and chaos is the old enemy. Remember, when we go all the way back to Genesis 1, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. That word tehom is the ancient chaos that the world was in before God brought light into it. It's that chaos, that tehom, that tavel that these mixtures, it is not, they say you do not mix seed. You do not plant cotton and corn in the same field. That's a forbid. You don't mix seeds in your field. You plant corn here, you plant cotton over here. You plant barley over here, you plant rye. You don't mix things because it causes confusion. And anybody that sees that term zerah enosh means that this is a forbidden mixture of two, not races, not races. It never ever, the Bible never ever says anything about mixtures of races. It's talking about mixtures of cultures, the Ammonites, the Perizzites, the Hivites. That is a culture, has nothing to do with skin color and the race. It's a culture that they're mixing that causes confusion. And that's probably, Jeff, probably what they're talking about is this seeds of men will bring immediately to the Hebrew mind. He's talking about a mixture that causes tavel. So this is, and that's why it says a mixture in marriage. It's that kind of chaos and confusion that he's saying that the Roman Empire, the iron, fell into. I think.
well, I know. Okay, going out on a limb here. I know they compare us to clay. The believer as a. I'm kind of wondering. Okay, going out on that, are we talking about those that are caught up in the what would be the Roman super church at the end of the age? Is that what we're talking about? That they're kind of unequally yoked?
You know, that is one of the explanations I have heard. That
Really?
yes.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that. I was just sitting there.
This
I'm
is
beating
what
my brain.
this is one, and this has been rattling around in my head for about a year now. Is we go
long time.
we go for from the Roman Church, from the Roman Empire, and we go from true Rome, whether it's the Eastern Rome or Western Rome, the two legs, it's a divided kingdom ish, but it's still iron. But then we go into this transition into iron mixed with clay, and it's not a stable mixture. And I just can't get around thinking Rome, the Roman Church, it's the Roman Empire and the Roman Church mix.
Well, I mean, does that go with Revelation 18:4? It says, "I heard another voice from heaven saying, 'Come out of her, my people.'"
Yeah, it's talking about Babylon, I think, but I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and
but, I
then we
mean,
mix Babylon with it, and we got a total mess here. This is
well,
the
I mean, I didn't mean to do that. I'm just
no.
because I mean, because
This is where we are.
Babylon,
This is the
Rome,
reason we're
Rome is a
starting.
type of Babylon.
Yeah,
But isn't
this
it
is
a long jump to go all the way from the Roman Empire to the end of the age, when it was like in unison?
yep,
So you're going to go in unison from one to another, and then you're going to skip 2,000 years or 3,000 or 4,000 years.
yep.
Wouldn't you
This
think that the iron and clay like is mixed between, if it is between the Romans and something else, it wouldn't jump to the end of age with that.
and this is the reason we're starting in Daniel. This is the reason we're starting in Daniel, because we need
I'm
to
sorry,
start.
I didn't mean to get.
We,
Yeah.
no,
Well,
this
because
is
the next verse talks about the King of Kings will set up a kingdom. I mean, is that the Jesus kingdom?
yeah. Now,
Not the kingdom at the end of the age, but the king the time of Jesus and his wouldn't that be that not the end of the age kingdom?
yes, yes. Now think about our statue. Think about how Daniel has described it. He's described it as, what did he say? Behold, a great image. This image is mighty and exceeding brightness, stood before you, and his appearance was frightening. Its head, and it goes. He describes it all the way from head to foot, all the way from head to foot, and then this stone from a mountain that was not hewn by human hands comes and hits the statue in the feet and destroys the feet, which destroys everything. Are we talking about he's remember he said the latter days. This is a story of the latter days. It hits it and destroys all these kingdoms at once,
So
from
when
Babylon
Christ
to
comes,
Rome. I'm sorry, Becky?
so when Christ comes,
That kingdom, that stone becomes a mountain more mighty and fills the earth. I don't think we have to argue about what that is.
okay.
So the issue is, when the stone comes and strikes it and destroys it, is that the end? Is that the end of all things? That's the end of the age, when we go into the new earth, the new
Right.
heaven and the new earth. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here in Revelation 20. That says at the end of it, 1,000 years he'll be loosed, and then everything, and then we go into the New Jerusalem, New Earth. Then.
Yep.
Mhm.
We think about this statue, and we've got to carry this statue with us from now on, because this is the model that God gave to Nebuchadnezzar. That illustrates the latter days. It says it right there. God in heaven, who reveals mystery, he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Don't forget that. This statue is made known to Nebuchadnezzar that will be in the latter days. So this is the picture of the latter days. We've got to carry that in our head as we try and interpret this stuff here. So we're almost at the end here. All right, I'm gonna yeah we're gonna stop here. We're gonna stop here. All right, everybody got homework now. You got to
Okay.
go back now. Don't look ahead to Revelation. Don't look at that. I know you're gonna think of it.
Oh
Don't
man.
I know. Don't look ahead to Revelation yet. Stay in Daniel. That's one of the things I want us to try and do. Don't. I know it's tempting to me to want to go over to Revelation. Don't look at Revelation yet. Let's get the picture that Daniel gave Nebuchadnezzar of the latter days. These are the things that are to come in the latter days. And he doesn't say which one, so we know that it's sometime before Jesus was born, all the way to the end, where we've got the new heaven and new earth. So let's keep this in mind. Keep the statue in mind. Read over chapter 2 again. We're going to start with the interpretation of the dream, and we're going to get a running start into it next week. And bring questions. Bring questions to start off, because chapter 2 is the beginning of the mess. We've got a big mess to uncover here and to deal with prophecy. So start with chapter 2, read it again, especially that psalm in there in the middle of it. That is a beautiful, beautiful psalm. You want to know what God looks like? There he is right there. So read over that psalm, but look back through the statue and get the statue in your head. That should be riding around with you in your head. Gold, silver, bronze, iron, and this iron mixture. Keep that in your mind, because that's going to be our pattern going into the latter days. All right? Any questions? Any questions? We'll start with the interpretation of the dream, verse 31 next week, and get a running start into it. Any questions before we break? It's a very good discussion tonight, and yes, this is sticky, but hopefully Daniel is going to uncover Revelation for us when we get there. All right.
Thank you, Norm.
Norm.
Thank you,
Yes,
Norm.
Thank
All
you
right.
very
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Everybody have a good week.
Yeah.
Good
Good
night,
night,
everybody.
everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye. Good night.